Nice.
Guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. Our toil, resources, and livelihood are all involved. So is the very structure of our society. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome to the American Awakening, the BERGY-BIT. I am very excited, proud, humbled, honored. I don't have the greatest vocabulary, so I'm going to leave it there. And I got Fred Taylor here tonight, an amazing man. I'm not even going to waste your time with me. I'm going to see if I can get Fred brought in here without screwing this up too bad. Hold on one second. Let me see here. Where are you, Fred? There you are. Going to bring you in here. And let's see. I got to bring him up over here. Fred Taylor is coming to the audio. Can't hear you yet.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and let me do this here. Is your video activated?
It is now.
There you go. Okay, we got.
Hang on.
There we
There
go.
we go.
All right, boss. Hold on. Let me bring you into the audience. Here. Here we go. Mr. Fred. Here we are.
Hi, Pat.
There we are. So let me minimize this here a bit, Fred, so I can see all my screens. I've actually got you in a chat room here. I actually got several chats going here right now. Let me just get you kind of fit in there. There we go. You're live now. You're live now on Twitch, which is actually an amazing platform. On Facebook, which I've got one of my friends moderating in there. I don't know if I have it set up properly yet or not. And then I've got we're live on YouTube, which has a great audience as well. So wanted to just jump right in here, give a quick introduction to you. I don't need your bio, right? I would never, your bio, anything I downloaded wouldn't even come close to covering what you've accomplished in your life, in combat and then post-combat. But just to fill our audience in here real quick, Fred, I met Fred, in, I think, 2000, right? I think...
Probably about 21, 22 years ago.
Yeah, it was a week before Mia, my first daughter, was born. I remember I had to put the fence up for our dog. And it was we had bought the house and moved there about a week before. And Fred was Fred lived like kitty corner. You moved, but not too far now, but... and so, having someone like Fred as a next door neighbor, wow. Right. And in a lot of ways in my book, Victim of the Swamp, I wrote a little bit about Fred in there and how he was actually a big inspiration for me when I to enlist in the Army at 40, right? You know, I'd like to tell Fred I learned everything in combat from him except for how to get shot, because I left that up to you.
I'm glad that did not happen.
So enough of me talking. Fred is a 3-time Purple Heart recipient. I've got a couple songs that I want to play tonight that songwriters have just written. You can explain them before we come on with those a little bit. And I'd love to just, tell your story, right? So the floor is yours, Mr. Taylor.
Well, thank you, Pat. What a pleasure to be here tonight. Thank you for inviting me. In regard to the songs, one song was written in, I think, 1999 or 97, some time frame around there, and produced in Nashville by a gentleman named Steve Am. And Steve is actually, or he's passed away now. Steve is a veteran, a Marine Corps veteran, and he was very active in the country music arena. And so he heard about my story. I think he read it in one of the veterans magazines, and he wanted to do a song about me. I said, well, I don't know. No one's ever offered to do a song about me before. I'm just a small town guy, but he did the song, and I actually thought it was very touching. And Steve is a gold record recipient. He got a gold record for a song late 50s or early 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And so he wrote and produced a song, and it's called "The Ballad of Fred Taylor." So that's the first one. And then around 2015-ish, a group from Nashville was commissioned by a benefactor to produce another record, and it's called "Crawling Out." And it's kind of a strange title, I guess. But the reason for that is "Crawling Out" was made about my story. The last Purple Heart, I was shot twice. I got shot through the left foot with a machine gun and through the right knee by an AK-47, a sniper in a tree. And because of the heavy fire, my men had to pull back. Otherwise, they were going to take a lot more casualties attempting to get to me. And so I was essentially left, and my leg was shot. My right leg was shot in half. My left foot was blown open, and in order to get to where I might be saved, I had to crawl. I'm going to estimate probably 25 or 30 meters. Now, it doesn't sound like very far, but when your leg is shot in half and you're crawling on your back, and all I had to move was my hands. I had to dig my hands into the dirt like that and claw. And then my left heel was left. And so I used my left heel and my hands to claw my way up the hill to where I could be saved out of the gunfire. So Crawling Out, the reason for that title is I had to crawl to get to safety. And so I worked with them, and the first song they did I didn't like. And these guys worked really hard. There was 2 songwriters, and I didn't like it. It just didn't sound right. They scrapped it, started all over again, wrote a totally different song. They stayed up all night. The next morning I was at breakfast, and these guys came down and they looked whipped, and they said, "We've got it. We've got the song." And so after breakfast, I went up to the suite. I listened to the song. They played it for 3 or 4 other songwriters, and they all gave the thumbs up. And so that's the 2 songs. And so it's quite an honor to have songs made about you. And so that's the story. That's how it happened.
So, Fred, I have you zoomed into the screen right now, so people can see behind you, right?
Okay.
And just, The wall, what you can see on his wall there, is really not even a fraction. He has, if you were to be able to pull that out, you would see him shaking hands with, I think, about every president. You would see, I think, what's that strange award that you were given by Pence in Indiana?
Oh, yes. Mike Pence,
The Wabash.
the former vice president, awarded me the highest award a person from Indiana can receive. It's called the Sagamore of the Wabash.
Now that was before he was vice president. Like, that was as he was going into office, right?
Affirmative. He was a candidate. He was on the ticket with Trump, and I think the award was given to me somewhere around September or October before the election.
Mm-hmm.
He was governor. He was governor of Indiana.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. So let me take a moment here, right? And this should work, but let me make sure here. Let me do this. Control C. I'm going to go, if you don't mind, I'd like to play that first song by Mr. Am. What do you think, Fred?
Okay, that's good with me, Pat.
Cool. Absolutely amazing song, but I might have to, I'm hoping I won't lose you. Yeah, let me do this here. Let me do that. Yes. There. And now I can do this here. This is the Ballad of Fred Taylor.
You know, the other day my son came, sat down beside me, like he's done so many times before. He said, "Dad, do you know the man who's moving in the house next door?" And I said, "Yes, I do, son. Fred Taylor's his name. He's been my lifelong friend, and to him I've been the same." "Why do you ask?" He replied, "Well, Dad, kids in school say he's a hero. He was wounded and got 3 Purple Hearts in a war in a foreign land. They say he fought in a country called Vietnam." I said, "Son, let me tell you what I know about Fred Taylor the man. Fred and I, we grew up together in a small Hoosier town. We were buddies, and we did things that most boys do. Now and then we had our ups and downs, but we were friends all the way through school, tried and true. We were fresh out of high school with expectations and lots of dreams. We talked to going to college, but our parents just couldn't live beyond their means, and money for tuition was hard to come by, it seems. Like me, Fred was in a bad situation, so he joined the Army to get an education. But what Fred got wasn't what he bargained for. After a few weeks of training, they had sent him off to fight a war. On April the 29th in '68, he charged up Hamburger Hill with 120 men. They were surrounded. The enemy was 600 plus strong. And Fred and his men, they were outnumbered more than 5 to 1. 29 Americans died that day, and Fred was wounded in the leg. But he survived to fight another day, because Fred wasn't done. And that's when he got Purple Heart #1. Then I think it was on around June 11, 1968, Fred was in combat at Quang Tree Mountain when he was wounded in the back with shrapnel in his spine. But son, he wasn't through. No, sir. That's when he got Purple Heart #2. You know, son, being wounded was Fred's ticket home. He could have been shipped back stateside. But Fred said no, he wasn't ready to go, so he turned down the ride. And just 4 days later, after turning down his flight in medevac, Fred, in unbearable pain and with gaping wounds still in his back, found himself at Quang Tree Province, facing a machine gun nest. Fred stood tall, and he gave it his best. But out of ammo and no place to retreat, he took a gunshot wounds in his leg and feet. You know, son, he went through all this to make Vietnam free. for that, they awarded him Purple Heart number 3. Well, they sent him home to spend 6 months in the hospital getting well. And like so many other soldiers, he had seen and survived a living hell. What Fred saw and lived through would make most men choke. And with all he had done for his country, son, he wasn't even old enough to vote. When the Vietnam vets came home, they were ignored and denied, spat on and rejected. Isn't it funny, son? Today many of them serve us in public office, whom we elected. Fred Taylor, who is he? But son, what's in a name? What he did in Vietnam, he did for his country, not for fame. Fred is part of our country. He's part of me and he's part of you. Son, he's a part of the red, white, and blue. So God bless America, son, and all the Fred Taylors and their sacrifices and what they've done. And praise God for all of those that got to come home. So let's go next door, and I'll introduce you to my friend. And you can meet Fred Taylor, son, and thank you by shaking his hand.
I got to go next door and shake this man's hand. He was my neighbor, but this song was written about when you were in Indiana, kind of put together like that. I've held that shrapnel. Do you happen to, any chance you have that that you could show everyone, Fred? Do you have that handy? Or
I do have it, but it's not here in my office.
Gotcha. I've held it in my hand. It's like a 50 caliber weight to it, right? I mean, what's the size on that? It's a piece of...
I'd say it's about the size of a silver dollar. And when it hit me in the thoracic spine, just to the right of my T4 spine. And I was paralyzed from the chest down for several minutes. As they described it, it was a spinal bruise. And as I regained use of my arms and legs, that was a long 4 or 5 minutes, as I'm starting to imagine spending the rest of my life without my arms and legs used. So I was very fortunate to be able to regain my use of my arms and legs. And when I was at the what we call the medevac site, where the people who are wounded are going to be taken out, the lieutenant came and kneeled down beside me, and he said, "Taylor, I know that's your second Purple Heart. You have every right to go to the rear and probably go home." He said, "Your buddies really need you." And I said, "Sir, if my buddies need me, you can count on me to stick with you." And he said, "You stick in here and we'll get you out just as soon as we get reinforcements." Now, we had taken heavy casualties for a number of days, so we were really depleted. And I had some skills. I knew some things that other people didn't know about reordering supplies, logistics, things of that nature, communication. So I understood why he needed me to stay, and I wasn't going to abandon the people I served with.
You were just a damn private too at the time, weren't you?
I was a PFC.
Yep.
And so they put a bandage on my back. They put medicine in my hole, the hole in my back. And you saw the shrapnel, so you know the hole, the size of the hole.
Holy Jesus.
And the funny thing, Pat, is I was wounded the first time on April 29th and was in the hospital in Vietnam for 2 weeks. And a call came from the top that he wanted me to come back. And the doctor said, "Your wound," I had 2 pieces of grenade shrapnel in my right leg. And he said, "Your wounds aren't healed, but they're insisting that you come back to the unit." And I said, "Well, doctor, what is going to happen, because my wounds are still draining?" He said, "Oh, they'll treat you in the field." So I went back. I went back to the field with 2 draining wounds, and they never healed. So I had draining wounds from the first Purple Heart in April that never, in the jungle, you have to understand it's hot, humid. And then I had the wound in my back. So I had 2 wounds still not healed when I got shot the third time, or got wounded the third time. So I'm a lucky man, Pat. I'm a lucky man to be alive. I don't know how I lived through it. The heaviest combat I ever was in was at a place called Dong At Bia Mountain, which 1 year later, when the 101st was there, was called Hamburger Hill. But we were the first. The first air cavalry went into the Ashaw Valley in April of '68. And then when I got out of the hospital, I got sent back. My unit was still in the Ashaw Valley. And then they flew in Chinooks. If you know what that is, it's got the two big rotors on it. And they picked us up and took us to a place called Khe Sanh, which was a base where the Marines were pinned down. The Marines had been pinned down for something like 77 days by artillery fire over on the mountains down into the valley where Khe Sanh was. And I never thought I would ever say I would feel sorry for Marines, but I will tell you this: when we landed and they dropped the back and we ran out, you had to run out quick because the helicopters wanted to get off the ground. They were sitting ducks. We ran and jumped into bunkers and foxholes. And I'm going to tell you, those Marines, and if there's any Marines watching or listening tonight that were at Khe Sanh, I feel for you. It was a nasty, dirty, red clay filled dump. And a lot of Marines gave their life. And then when it was time to pull back, they pulled out and they bulldozed it. So, I really felt bad for the Marines at Khe Sanh. It was a brutal place.
Oh my God. I was in Vietnam, as you know, 2013, Monet with that Russian beach, with all but I think it was a different situation than yours. A
little. I heard they have very nice beaches there. I never saw it.
They do.
But they tell me Cam Bay and some of the others were just magnificent. So
they do. I think Trump was onto something when he was telling Kim Jong-il to, you could be making nuclear weapons or you could also be making Trump hotels on that beach of yours. And he's like, hey, and, I spent 5 years in Korea. And that's the first time I've ever heard someone actually say something that made sense. And it actually seemed hopeful. 70 years later, right? And Trump comes in and just comes up with the dumbest idea, and it's like it worked. But you couldn't get in politics. You cannot let one side have any victory. But the problem is that side is your president of the United States. So no matter, you have an election, you win. I enlisted under Bush. I was never a fan of Bush, right? But that didn't mean I wasn't going to serve my country. And if he told me to do this or that, I'd do it. Right? Because
that's right. That's the oath we take.
Yeah.
We give an oath to serve our country, defend it against foreign and domestic enemies. So that's part of what we live for. That's our job.
It is. It is. So we've got the other song that I'd like to play. If you could now you had already you had mentioned that. Now this one's called "Crawling Out." This is my favorite of the two, right? But it just it's like I don't care. I don't care how big and tough you are. You're probably gonna. It's okay in the stream to cry. Right, because
this got a great story, Pat.
It's a great story, and the guys, these guys tell this. They just tell it beautifully, right? So I am going to play with great pride, "Crawling Out."
Indiana boy in a jungle far from home, world on my shoulders, I'm 19 years old. They hit me from all sides, my blood begins to spill, running out of hope and bullets up on Hamburger Hill. This could be the end of me, but there's a fire inside me saying, I'm crawling out of here. If it's the last thing that I ever do, I'm crawling out of here. Know my mission and I'll see it through. I'll see it through. Woke up in a hospital, curtains round my bed. The doctors won't look me in the eye. No one here can tell me if I get to keep my legs. And all I wanted was to live a simple life. This could be the end of me, but there's a fire inside me saying, I'm crawling out of here. If it's the last thing that I ever do, I'm crawling out of here. Know my mission and I'll see it through. I'll see it through. My life tells a story, when that's all that remains. You tell them I took up the battle just like I was trained. I'm still keeping that same promise that I made on my first day. When they call my name as I reach the gate, I'll turn to you and wait. I'm crawling out of here. If it's the last thing that I ever do, I'm crawling out of here. Know my mission and I see it through. I'm crawling out of here. There's something I've been put here to do. I'm crawling out of here. Know my mission and I'll see it through. I saw it through.
Beautiful, beautiful.
You know, the story, this was debuted in Orlando, Florida at a conference, at a convention, and the songwriters sang the song. The people who wrote the song sang it, and people actually were touched by this, Pat. It was shocking. I didn't realize how this song would attack a Green Beret, a major who was wounded in Iraq, cried. I mean, he came up to me and said, that song touched me. He said, I don't know why, but he said, I can't quit crying. And other people came out and said it moved them. So these songwriters did an amazing job, and I own the song. They told me, they suggested I try to get someone. I can't. They told me 2 or 3 singers that they thought the song would be great for, and but I never did anything with it. I never tried to sell it or get anyone to sing it for me.
Well, if I get any YouTube strikes, Fred, will you call YouTube for me and tell them it's okay?
All right. Yes, absolutely. I own the song. I'm the owner of it. It was given to me.
That's
So
actually quite a challenge, really. Um, so I want you to tell. There's one story for sure I want you to tell, because we have a lot. We have a lot of actually really good people here, and they really love your story. Um, you should have gotten the Medal of Honor, correct?
I
There's a
think so. I was told
story
that.
behind that, and
Let me tell you
please,
what. Let me tell you why. I told my story. I ran for national commander of the Military Order of Purple Heart, and in 2000, I was elected as national commander of the 40,000 member Purple Heart organization. But when I was going around, they got these things called caucuses from different parts of the country. It'd be like 6 or 7 states. So I went in, and there was a Special Forces Ranger Colonel. His first name was Jack, and he asked me some stories. He said, "Well, you got 3 Purple Hearts. What other awards do you have?" I go, "I have no other awards." He goes, "What? You got 3 Purple Hearts? You don't have a Silver Star? You don't have anything?" I go, "No, sir, I have none of that." And he said, "Well, tell us a little about the combat." And I told him the story, in particular, a couple of them. The last one, when I got wounded, I got shot twice. I covered every one of my men. Every single person got out, and then had no more bullets. I shot all my
they
bullets at this guy.
kind of left you there,
And
Fred.
so, without any bullets or anything, that's why I got shot, because I couldn't defend myself anymore. I was out of ammunition.
Mm.
But I covered every single one. The other one was when I was at Dongatby Mountain, which is a year later, Hamburger Hill. I was wounded in 2 pieces of grenade shrapnel, and as I used my M16 rifle as a crutch. As I was walking back to the LZ to be medevaced out to the hospital, the artillery forward observer come running down. He says, "We got wounded and dead out front. I need volunteers to go out and get them." Well, all these guys were wounded, and so we just kept on walking. And I stopped, and I said, "Sir, I'm wounded, but can I get anyone, you think?" And he said, "Yes, come with me." So we went back. We went off to the right, out into the jungle, and he kneeled down. He says, "Look out there. You can see people later." So I took off my ammo thing, the web gear, we call it, because it makes it too hard to crawl. And I left my rifle, and I low crawled out. And even though I was wounded in the legs, I grabbed the guy that was laying by the ankles, and I pulled him. And it was hard, because you try to pull dead weight, and you could pull him maybe 12 inches, and then you had to crawl back and then pull him another 12 inches. I'm laying flat on my stomach. So I finally get one guy pulled back.
Where was he wounded, Fred?
He was deceased. Mm-hmm. And they said, "There's another one out there to the left." So I just started to crawl out, and on my shoulder I feel wham like that, and I thought I was shot. And it was my squad leader, Ed Rainford, and he says, "What are you doing?" He says, "The medevac's coming in, and it's getting dark. They're not going to fly anymore." He says, "You got to get back and get out of here." And I said, "But there's more wounded out there for me to go get." He says, "Forget it." He says, "You got to get out of here." So I went back to the LZ, but I got, under fire. I pulled that guy out, and there was nothing. I covered guys. There's a bunch of stories. There's a lot more. I mean, I was in the heaviest combat in the history of the war. If you look up the Vietnam War, 1968. And so nothing. People was saying to me, "You're going to get the Medal of Honor," and all kind of stuff like that. And nothing ever happened. I never heard anything. No one ever sent me anything. Nothing. Never even got so much as a Bronze Star. So come to find out, I think probably I got caught up in a political situation where everything I did got quashed. And I'm not going to go into the political situation, but I saw something happen, and I objected to it, and was told, you don't understand the military, son. This is important. This is something happened and it was important that I just bury it and forget it. So all the things I did, and if the story ever came out, I've always...
I have to interject on that a minute.
Sure.
And I'm not going to, if you aren't comfortable with this, I just want to say that what Fred's trying to allude to there is he was helping out a guy that was like a black guy that was kind of, if I'm not mistaken, getting kind of a bum deal. And Fred stood up for him and ticked his command off. And they were kind of dicks. Is that a good layman's representation of that?
It's a part of the story. That's correct. The
We
really
won't
cool
enter
thing
that
I
into
want to say
official
is
congressional
when
records.
when I took over as the resupply rep, there was actually racism. Believe it or not, there was favoritism and racism. And when I took it over, I stopped it. The thing was, you didn't have to barter with me to get stuff. If you needed a toothbrush, if you needed soap, you needed toothpaste, you needed cans, you needed writing materials, you got it. And it wasn't based on what you gave to me to get it or anything else, which had happened before me. And when I got wounded the last time, Pat, and I've never been able to find the guys. I know one guy named Wanzo Fisher lives in Texas somewhere. The other guys, I don't know. But when I got wounded, the black guys in the unit said, "We will carry Taylor out." And they wouldn't let anyone touch me. There was about 5 or 6 of them. And let me tell you how bad it was.
You were probably thinner back then.
Yeah, we didn't have cots, so they had to chop tree branches and stick them through ponchos to make a makeshift cot or litter to carry me out. And it was 100 degrees, maybe higher, packing through the jungle. These guys were carrying me in this makeshift litter. And when they finally got me to the place where they were going to medevac me out, they were throwing up. What they did, how do I ever thank them? And I never got to see them again. So, it's a situation where I'm very proud of what I did. I'm grateful to people who carried me out. I wish I could thank them to their face. Probably many of them are dead now. But going back to the medals and stuff, you can see behind me here, if you look, you're going to see 3 Purple Hearts, but no heroism medals, no Bronze Star, Silver Star, Medal of Honor, Army Common, nothing.
How does that happen?
So, and when I've told this story, here I want to finish this story now. So I'm doing this political talk where you go around to these caucuses, and this guy who was a Ranger colonel, a salesman. He actually is a salesman. He says this guy is a fraud. He's a wannabe. If everything he said is true, he would probably be a Medal of Honor recipient today. So he's a liar and a fraud. Now imagine that. All I went through, being wounded, all the things I went through. To have
I don't even have to imagine.
Integrity impugned in front of hundreds of people. And it is very hard to explain. As a matter of fact, I've never met anyone who had 3 Purple Hearts that didn't have multiple hero awards. The volunteering after I was wounded a second time, volunteering to stay and help, what's that worth? Nothing.
And let me add something else here, Fred. Beyond his 3 Purple Hearts, beyond his obvious bravery and all of these things, when he is finally just, the Army's like, you're too broke. We're done with you.
Yeah, I got medically retired.
Fred spends like the next 10,000 hours of the next 30 years of his life with, and this is old data, right? This is like probably 7-8-year-old data, but about 8 years ago, Fred had put in over 10,000 volunteer hours for veterans organizations. He's spoken in front of Congress on advocating for veterans. All of that said, Fred, somebody wants to know, and I did say that we could throw some questions in here, right?
Yes.
Does anybody have a question? And somebody said, what is, How can we fix the issues with the voting problems? I'm paraphrasing it there.
Well, the voting problems, first of all, I'm not an expert at it, but as an amateur, as a citizen, it seems to me that there's something wrong with our voting machines. Now, that's the first thing. The second thing is you got humans counting it. And I think probably there needs to be better bilateral observation. It should not be unilateral. One party or one group should not be in charge. It should be something that multiple parties watch to maintain the integrity. There seemed to be a lot of questions in the last presidential election about that voting integrity. I don't want to hear that. I fought for my country for freedom of speech, freedom of the right to elect people, to vote, and to hear the possibility, and I don't know if it's ever been confirmed, but Pat, to hear the possibility that voter fraud occurred doesn't sit well with me or any other veteran I know. And, I know thousands of people. I was national commander of 2 veterans organizations, the Military Order of the Purple Heart in 2000, and in 2017, I was elected national commander of the Combat Infantrymen's Association. So I hear comments and opinions from thousands of people, and no one wants to think that their vote was negated or taken away. No one wants that.
Now, Fred, in fairness, you remember me sitting out in front of Publix collecting 2,312 petitions to get my name on the ballot, running with no political affiliation like a dumbass. I called this out, a long time ago, right? I got about 18% of the vote. That sucked. But against the guy that I was running against, that was pretty good, actually, everybody thought. But what was my position on that, Fred? Nobody trusted the voting machines that Florida was spending a fortune on, those touchscreen voting machines. They didn't have paper ballots. So, Browning ended up going in as Secretary of State, right? And he turned around and changed that a couple years later and demanded that we go to the systems. And I think a lot of those to the optical scanning. And that's why I believe Florida wasn't like the subject of ridicule this time like we were in 2000 with the dangling chads. Arizona had that one this time. And I think, I think it's because people did stand up after 2000 and said, wait a minute, right? But we ran into that political resistance. But, that political resistance did give way to common sense that people demanded transparency. So you're right.
Pat, you're better versed at this than me. So let me reverse this. I know you want to ask me questions, but let me ask you or any of your listeners or watchers, has there ever been a confirmation that there was voter fraud anywhere? I know there's all kind of talk, but has it ever been confirmed? I don't know. Do you know, or have you heard I know they did something in Arizona and they were trying to do something in Michigan and other places, but I've never heard the results of it.
That the Arizona and stuff and Michigan, yes, there was, but there was a couple days ago. Actual confirmation of 3 cases of people voting 3 times, right? Which is what everybody, unfortunately, they were Republicans out in the villages.
That certainly doesn't help their case now, does it?
But we did find some. The Republicans did end up finding some for sure. No, I mean, I'm trying to sift through that now because there's a whole bunch of psyop going on. There's not a lot of trust in our government right now. And what is the key thing you started with there? It's the integrity. It's the transparency, right? I didn't see a lot of that I saw in Atlanta. I saw people putting cardboard over windows where they were counting. That's the opposite of transparency.
See, that shouldn't occur. What you're saying is the exact thing I said. That created a question in people's mind. Was there voter fraud?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but it leads you to believe, and it certainly suggests that something was being hidden.
Sure.
And I don't want that. I don't ever want that. Now, I'm trained, and so were you, Pat, that we will serve our commander in chief.
Mm-hmm.
And whether I want that person or I voted for that person, once they're in, I serve them. But the one thing I want to know is I want to know that it was a legitimate vote and they actually
sir.
won fair and square. That's all I want to know.
Well,
and after that, I will serve the commander in chief.
can I answer? I can actually answer that. Did the voter fraud at the polls, would that have changed the election? And I'm going to get
Good question.
I'm going to get a bunch of people ticked off at me, and I'm going to say no, it wouldn't have. You know why? Because the things that you remember, have you ever seen Shadowgate, Fred?
No.
You remember? Okay, so in Shadowgate, the things I'm exposing in Shadowgate about the partnerships between Facebook and Atlantic Council, the people I built these things for, right? Yeah. They literally, when Facebook and Atlantic Council, when Obama's national security advisor is flagging every single post that Trump makes, every single post that anybody MAGA makes, right? Every Trump Republican that flags a post, not just affecting one race, right? I'm talking if you want to look at something that actually committed election influence and election fraud, that actually changed the outcome of the 2020 election on multiple levels. It would be those partnerships. It would be the partnerships with Facebook, Atlantic Council, Twitter, and blocking these posts. Facebook has done tests on it. They know they can change the outcome of an election. And that was doing it with a fraction of what they did with Trump, right? So, yes, can they cheat on a local levels and such, or like with one particular candidate at a ballot box using these touchscreen machines? Obviously they can. I've fought against that in 2004, especially with the optical scanning, the touchscreen systems that don't get that don't give you the paper ballot. But I would, and a lot of people are looking at numbers between about 50 and 60 million that were either independent, Democrat, or Republican and changed their vote away from Trump when they may have voted for him because of the lies and the fake news. And by the way, the fake news, the posts that they were doing, when they when they're blocking him as being fake news, those organizations are literally partnered with my old colleagues that I was exposing in Shadowgate, right? And then we end up in D.C. with Byrne and General Flynn and those people. And what do? They, instead of transparency, they're bringing in dark money now, right? And they're saying, oh, well, we're going to have our cyber people investigate it. In fact, they literally led their investigation into the election with a guy that replaced my program manager on a psychological warfare operation in Afghanistan. So not only do they lack transparency, which is critical for a man, even if let's say they found something, right, that was legit. Wow, we found this. It's leading to Hillary's server in her bathroom. Well, you would have a former psychological warfare guy coming out and telling you, and everybody would be going, hey, didn't that guy work for PsyOps? Wasn't he like one of the greatest psychological warfare people in the history of our... I'm not entirely sure I believe him, right? So...
You're a very smart guy. You're very talented.
How are we going to fix it?
You've seen a lot of things. I was never on the cyber side. I was a combat guy. But you've seen a lot, and... I think sometimes they say the closer you get to the flame, the hotter you get. So you've been close to the flame. I've never been close like that.
Yeah, right. Crawling out. Oh my God,
Yeah.
Fred.
Yeah.
What you
I tell you,
do?
no one who's watching or listening tonight wants to think that their vote was negated by an illegitimate vote. No one. No one wants that. And it's one of the things that really created a lot of dissent. I remember in my time, and I'm older than probably a lot of people watching, but in my time, there was an election that was stolen. It was the Kennedy-Nixon election. And it's famous about the Chicago or the Illinois vote, where they voted dead people, they voted people that didn't even live there. And it was the state that turned the Kennedy-Nixon election around. And so it's not new, Pat. This stealing elections and lying and cheating is not new. But you would think in our time, and you're an expert at it, you would think in our time that with all the technology we got, it would be guarded and protected. But apparently it wasn't.
The technology is the problem.
It makes me feel bad. It makes me feel like something bad happened. And maybe it didn't. But the way it was handled, it makes me feel like something bad happened.
It leaves you with, it leaves you wondering. And that's their entire goal. Their entire job is to make sure that that doesn't happen, that we have trust in our election process, right? So that's a critical thing. But no, the thing the thing that's important, right, is people need to understand that you don't give up, right? Fred is the greatest inspiration to me and everyone about never giving up, right? And I saw you liked something that I posted today from Sully Sullenberger.
Yes,
and, when I posted that, I said, I bet Fred's going to like that.
I did.
Right? Makes sense, doesn't it?
There's a brave guy. There's a guy that saved a lot of people.
Yeah, but it makes sense what he said there. He said there is no such thing as multitasking. It's just all you're doing is you're starting and stopping two different projects incompletely.
That's pretty good.
Basically, I ruined it, but
Well, I want to talk a little bit about my new project, Voice of Our Veterans. It's going to be a magnificent program. We've taken a lot of time. It's went through Washington, D.C. to get it trademarked. www.voiceofourveterans.org, O-R-G. You can check it out. And this is going to give a voice to every single veteran, every single military person, every single retired military person that's never been done before. Often people who are in veterans organizations, the veterans organizations aren't allowed to take certain stands because of their charters. We have no such charter, and we are going to speak in a unified voice for all veterans, all military, and all military retirees. Never happened before. No matter what organization you're in the Legion, VFW, DAV, veterans, it doesn't matter which one. We're going to speak for everyone. And so we're really excited. It's going to be a great thing. I've got some programs that are just going to amazing. Of course, we're going to participate in all the normal things like homeless veteran programs, women veterans programs. But I've got a couple programs, Pat, no one's doing, as far as I know. And I've seen several magazines. But one of the groups of veterans that is forgotten is older veterans. Once you're not young and handsome, you get older, we like to kind of discard older veterans. Well, Voice of Our Veterans is not going to let that happen. We're going to speak for all veterans, whether you're 90 or you're 19. We're going to speak for them. So I'm really excited about this opportunity. And I think when people learn about it and watch what we're doing, it's going to be amazing.
Well, Fred has told me and talked about doing, like, originally it was going to be Voice of the Veteran, but you have wanted to have a voice for a long time. I can't think of anybody in these times where you don't trust anybody in your government, where you can't trust anything in the news or the media, And there's just so much, betrayal, that if anybody had a voice out there, it should be this man right here, right? So, especially with that new beard.
Every side, Pat, we're going to hear every side of every argument. There'll be no hiding anything, and veterans and military people have things in their mind. And recently we had a situation where I believe he was a lieutenant colonel in the Marines, simply wanted to express something as a citizen. I mean, he didn't quit being a citizen when he went in the military. And because of that, he was put in jail, and I think he's out of the military now.
Yeah.
And here's a man who dedicated many years of his life to service to our nation, but because he wanted to express an opinion, he was ostracized. You know what? Voice of our Veterans is going to give everyone an opportunity now. Everyone.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And I'll help any way I can. And once you get everything set up, I'll let you stream for free from Freedom Stream. We'll put you a channel on there. That's been something I've been working on. I've wanted to do for probably 10 years now, since I was stuck in Iraq with my sling box trying to watch TV back home. You couldn't do it. Yours is much more noble than mine, trying to get like video games and TV, but it's good for morale. These things are amazing when you're overseas. Nobody understands how it feels when you're like so far away and your family's back home, and you hear your the local traffic report, and you're like, wow, I used to be stuck in that. I wish I was stuck in that now. Right?
Well, another great program we're going to promote is we're going to be a 501c3 IRS designated nonprofit. People can donate and get a tax deduction. And one of the other major programs, I told you we're going to do all the other things: homeless vets, female vets, all that kind of stuff. But another, besides the older veteran thing that no one else is doing to very much to a great extent. The other thing we're going to do is, when I was National Commander of the Military Purple Heart, I met with the chairman of the subcommittee of the United States Senate Committee on Business Development for Veterans. And I was promised all kinds of things. Oh, we're going to make money available. We're going to make grants and loans and all this stuff, because veterans were having a hard time getting jobs. And so nothing ever came from it. And the stuff that they did pass, the legislation passed, is toothless tigers. There's nothing to it. It doesn't help veterans. So I want to create a fund where veterans who are qualified, look, I'll use an example. Say a person is a licensed electrician and would like to own his own business, but he doesn't have the $75,000 or $100,000 to buy the van, the equipment, do his promotion, all that stuff. We will give a grant to veterans who are qualified, licensed plumbers, licensed electricians, licensed whatever, that want to start their own business, physical therapists, et cetera, and we will do a grant to them through Voice of Our Veterans to help them get into business.
A lot of HVAC guys coming out of the desert, Fred.
They would love to work for themselves,
right?
They're independent people, and we're going to work on getting this. Now, I need $100 million, and people are going to go, whoa, this sounds like a lot, doesn't it?
I'll call Patrick Byrne.
Let's put it in perspective. Rumor is that Michael Bloomberg, former mayor of New York City, donated $250 million to candidates. The rumor is that George Soros donated up to $400 million to candidates to run for office. And it goes on and on. So when I'm saying I want to raise $100 million to help veterans start businesses, it's not that much, really.
No.
When you stop and think, we spent, $40 million on a research thing, investigation by Mueller, that proved nothing. After all, $40 million for nothing.
It actually showed us a lot, Fred. It showed me a lot. I put a lot of pieces together with this.
I want to raise $100 million, and we will set it into a fund and use part of it for the grants, and then we'll keep it there into perpetuity. and use the interest from that point forward to grant veterans who are qualified. I'm not talking about giving someone who's not qualified the money. I'm talking about people who have the qualifications. They just don't have the money to start a business. We're going to help them nationwide. Veterans are going to get a chance to be on their own and not be subservient to someone or have to work for someone. So
That
keep
is
an eye on
amazing.
Voice of our Veterans, and we're going to need donations. We're going to need a nationwide campaign.
Yes, sir. And what's your timeline on this? You've submitted for the stuff. You've got the site set up already, so a landing page or something.
Yes, that's correct.
You can't take any donations yet or anything, correct? From
We're
tax
waiting for.
deductible.
We're a nonprofit corporation with certified in the state of Florida. You can check with the Secretary of State. We're waiting. It takes 3 to 6 months to get the 501c3 IRS nonprofit designation. We're about 2.5 months into it. So it could be any time, or it could be up to another 2 or 3 months before. But we're getting everything in order.
Nothing happens at Christmas, Fred. You know the government shuts down at Christmas, and then they got the COVID on top of it. Jesus.
I'm excited. I'm excited to do things. Homeless veterans is dear to my heart. It breaks my heart to know that a person served their nation, sometimes in combat, but no matter what they did, they served their nation, and they came home, they couldn't get jobs, or they got into problems with drugs or whatever. I'm not going to blame or hold out that they need help. They need help to get out of being homeless. Isn't it heartbreaking to think of our servicemen and women being in the street homeless?
Fred,
it's terrible.
I was in the veterans pod of a homeless shelter from my medical condition, and then coming back with my contract ending the way it did. But
Pat, you should be very sympathetic.
Oh my God, Fred!
About.
No one, you
it was
don't have
beyond
any
your
better
control.
support. I've been at the very top and I've been at the very bottom, right? It's actually not too bad right about here where I'm at. It's a lot better on your soul. But what you guys are, what you're talking about there, you gotta just give them. Veterans sometimes, they're good people. They've proven merit, and give them the opportunity, and they'll get themselves out of that, right?
Affirmative.
A lot of times that's not the case, right? Sometimes there's only so much you can do for people. But
I'm going to use models. The models I'm going to use are like the Tunnel to Towers model, the Wounded Warriors model, where they have campaigns to raise money. They do good things with that money. I want to be audited. I want to watch everything. I want this to be a legit program where people know that when they donate money, that money goes to exactly where it's supposed to go. There's no siphoning off the money. There's no fraud. We will be set up in a way that cannot happen. I will not tolerate that.
Well,
so I'm really looking forward to it.
You've managed massive nursing home facilities. You've managed logistics. You're perfect for this. You've got my blessing on it.
Well, I hope you have hundreds of viewers, and those hundreds of viewers tell other hundreds of viewers to where we start getting a momentum going that after the first of the year in 2022, we can really build this. And by late 2022, we're starting to put veterans into their own businesses. We're starting to help people, both men and women, rebuild their lives.
That might be more important now than ever, Fred. Look around. Look around. That's actually a beautiful, brilliant idea. Might even be something that could help save our damn country, because it's immense.
I think this is a program that is real. This is a program that is going to have tangible results that people can see. You can see it, and we're going to record it. We're going to have records. We're going to show examples, and I'm hoping that we help hundreds or thousands of veterans, men and women veterans across this nation, get into their own business, be self-serving, and take care of themselves. Because, Pat, there's one thing we always say: veterans take care of veterans. And
Who?
it's a fact.
Who?
Yes, sir.
All right, Fred. Well, hey, we're actually it's ran a little bit over. It's 8:05. If anybody, I don't care though. I'll keep talking to you all night. But if anybody has any questions, if you have any thing, I mean, but somebody's got to once I get my next book done, Fred, one of these days somebody's got to write your story. Maybe if I learn enough on this, I could meet some sort of requirement to help you get that done. Somebody's got to get your story into book
I'd love
form.
that. Many people in the last 50 years have said that story needs to be put in writing, but we never got around to it.
And we got to get Fred Taylor. We got to get Fred Taylor the Medal of Honor, right? No one goes through all of that and doesn't achieve doesn't meet that bar. And you are one of the last 3 or so surviving 3-time Purple Heart recipients from Vietnam, aren't you?
I don't know that number. I
remember somebody said it on a radio show once a long time ago. And statistically, as long as it was, maybe you've moved up the chart, Fred. I don't know.
Maybe. But one of the goals, I'm 73 years old. One of my goals, and my wife says, you're crazy, just let it go. One of my goals, Pat, is to go to Washington, D.C., sit in front of a tribunal of 3 or 5 officers. I want to tell my story. I want to take the documented facts and the things that aren't documented or have been destroyed. I want it all on the record. And then whatever they say, if they say, we're not changing a thing, at least, Pat, I had my day in court, and we'll see what happens. One of these days, someone's going to help me do that.
Yeah. I've committed to that, but I can't. I'm doing my best, Fred. I'm trying to get this message out. I swear to God,
guy,
if
Pat.
I get
You're a busy man.
If I get this platform out, that's going to be that's my thing. We're going to get that. Somebody made a comment right here. That's not only book material, that's blockbuster Mel Gibson movie classic. And I think we could get Mel to play a young Fred Taylor. Probably, maybe not. You were much younger then. But no, that's one of the greatest stories that if it could be properly told, that's one of the greatest stories in our country's military history. It's certainly right up there. It really is. And it's just an honor, right? It's just an absolute honor. So, Fred, what's your website again?
www.voiceofourveterans.org.
Voice of Our Veterans. And I've shared your stuff out if they wanted to reach out to you on Facebook and Twitter. But no, just an amazing individual. And it's nice, it's refreshing, right? Because all you hear all day is just, betrayal and lies and blah, 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 and school shootings and this and that. It's nice. It's so nice for the soul to hear a story about a true American hero that can hopefully maybe inspire next generations, other generations of Americans to realize never give up. Even if you have to crawl, right? Never give up, and love your country, right? And be brave. That's the best thing we can do to ensure that our country keeps going, Fred. Because there's some people out there that are a little worried about it, present company included.
I'm a little worried about a lot of things. I don't feel comfortable with the trajectory that our country's on right now. I'm not feeling good about it. And I'm not talking about a few programs being changed. I'm saying I don't feel good about a lot of things, and that troubles me.
Likewise, boss. Likewise. Fred, we're gonna sign off here. I gotta swing by. We gotta schedule a time so you can watch Shadowgate. We've got Shadowgate. We got 2 Shadowgates. I was just in the documentary with Nick Searcy. We got to get some popcorn and watch some damn Shadowgate.
Come on. You know where I'm at. Come on over.
Fred, thank you very much. Anything else you want to say before we sign off here?
America.
God bless America.
God bless this nation. And beyond that, God protect this nation.
Whoop. Fred, I will talk to you later, my friend. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. God bless and good night. We'll see you tomorrow at 7 o'clock.
Thanks, Pat.
Good night.